We're going to demonstrate the titration for free and total acid on your FOSDIP 38 bath. First and foremost, as far as what's important when you're doing these tests, is to make sure that you get a representative sample from the bath. And once you collect that sample, you want to make sure that when you measure your initial sample size that you do it with the best accuracy possible. We use a pipette, glass pipette, which is calibrated for 5 mils by filling it to the line you see here. So basically we'll fill up the pipette to the 5 mil mark. And transfer it into a clean beaker. If you don't want to deal with or use the glass pipette, you can use a plastic syringe. Some of your accuracy is going to be compromised, so you have to be very careful to fill the syringe without getting any bubbles in it and to fill it to the correct mark. What you need to do when you fill is to be sure that that black plunger goes exactly to the 5 mil mark. This is less than 5 mils. This is exactly 5 mils. So let's fill up with the 5 mil syringe. We're going to make sure there's no bubbles. We're going to make sure that it's filled to the 5 mil mark. And we're going to place that into a clean beaker. Now we use phenolphthalein indicator for doing the total acid, and I believe the procedure says 4 to 6 drops. I just give it a small squirt. The amount of indicator that you use will only change the intensity of the color, but it will not change your endpoint. And free acid is done by using bromphenol blue indicator. On our other sample, we're just going to give that a squirt of the bromphenol blue. We're going to titrate using 0.1 normal sodium hydroxide, and my burette is filled to the 0 mark. And we're going to very slowly and steadily add the sodium hydroxide with mixing to our sample. And what we're looking for is a pink endpoint. If you note, what I'm doing is I'm adding 4 or 5 mils at a time, swirling the beaker with no addition, and then adding a little more. We want to be careful not to titrate too fast so that we go right past our endpoint. You'll also note that the solution will turn a little bit cloudy, but it's white, not pink. The cloudiness is the zinc from our zinc phosphate precipitating out. So let's add. Stop, slow down, swirl, add, swirl. And as we get closer to our endpoint, you'll notice that the pink persists for a little bit longer. So we're going to slow down, maybe add a little less. And there we go, we are at our endpoint. So when we started getting that pink to stay a little bit longer, we slowed down with our titration. And we're going to read our burette, and this one happens to be 23.5 total acid points. And if we're not sure, we can also add a couple more drops and see that the intensity of the pink comes back. If you're titrating too fast and you're just zipping along, you're going to end up with a very pink endpoint. We want to catch it a little bit before we go to that extreme. Now we're going to re-zero our burette. Back to 0. And this time we're going to titrate our free acid. The color change here is going from yellow to what we call blue, or if it's easier for you to visualize, titrate until the yellow color disappears or there's no more yellow in your sample. I think the end point is more of a grayish blue color. But let me show you the free acid titration. And let me stop, and on the white background you can see the yellow is still there. So we're going to add more. Very small amount at a time. Check it against the paper. The yellow is still there. Even though it's starting to turn blue at this point, there is still a tinge of yellow there. So now I'm going to add very slowly, maybe just 3 or 4 drops. And as you can see, our yellow is gone, and it's more of a gray-blue endpoint. And we'll take our reading, and it's 4.2. And I'm just going to purposely add extra, and you see it goes to a little darker blue. So if you go further than the endpoint, you will get the correct color, but you're not going to get an accurate number on your reading. So take your time. When you start seeing that color change, slow down, add less, and you'll get a more accurate reading when everything comes to fruition.